Hi, my name is Prawit Siriwat. I'm a guitarist and composer based in Southern California, and I like to write jazz and folk-inspired music. I'm really drawn to music that stretches the harmony in unexpected ways. Recently, someone asked me about how to incorporate more jazz vocabulary and jazz language into playing in maybe a jam band or rock setting, kind of like John Scofield. So I thought today I'd talk a little bit about how I incorporate jazz language into my playing in rock settings like modal vamps or rock chord progressions. So when I think of jazz vocabulary and when people ask me about it, there's often two types of things that people are wanting to learn. That's inside playing, which is targeting sounds within a scale or a key or a chord progression, and then there's outside playing, which is introducing notes that are maybe chromatic or outside of the scale to create tensions. Tension and release in music doesn't have to come from dissonance. You can actually achieve these things by playing within the scale. It can be through note choices that are displaced rhythmically or create harmonic motion on their own. And these are all really good techniques to have under your belt before you move straight to dissonance. Let's use the G Dorian mode as a reference point. A good strategy for playing inside a key and incorporating jazz vocabulary is to understand and play your diatonic triads and diatonic seventh chords. So the triads in G Dorian are G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, D minor, E diminished, F major, and now we're back at G minor. So there I was arpeggiating each one from the root of each chord. You can also play these as structures, as chordal structures. You can also play them in different inversions. And you can use them, as I did earlier, as single notes in arpeggios to create different lines. All over a G Dorian vamp. The diatonic seventh chords for G Dorian are as follows. You have G minor 7, A minor 7, B flat major 7, C 7, D minor 7, E minor 7 flat 5 or E half diminished, F major 7. Once again, you can incorporate those notes and think about those arpeggios to create lines. So in that sequence, I was just combining different arpeggios to create different harmonic movement, even if the chord progression or vamp is maybe a static G note. You can apply this to any diatonic chord, seventh or triad, while a G Dorian vamp is going on to help direct tension and release. Now the next step is a way we can start introducing chromatic notes into our jazz vocabulary. Use your diatonic triads and seventh chords and approach those notes from a chromatic note, a note outside of the scale. For example, if we take a G minor triad, we can approach each of those notes from a chromatic note. If I approach a G from below, I have an F sharp that lands on a G. On the B flat, I can approach it from an A. On the D, I can approach it from a D flat or a C sharp. So what I have is a line that sounds like this. If we add the minor seventh to that G minor arpeggio, we have one more chromatic note we can add, E to F. I'd like to clarify that some of these chromatic notes or half steps are not notes outside of the G Dorian scale. They're simply a half step away from the target note. So these are all from below. You can also do this from notes above the target note. So on G, that's a G sharp down to G. On B flat, that's a B down to B flat. On D, that's an E flat down to D. And on F, that's an F sharp down to F. This sequence has a couple more notes that are outside of the scale. You can then also combine notes from below and notes from above. All these can be combined together to make different lines. Now we're starting to really play with notes that are outside of the scale but still targeting inside notes. Even in a modal setting, we can use 5/1 movement to direct the harmony. Even though D7 is not naturally occurring as a diatonic chord in G Dorian, we can use it to help move the harmony in a certain direction. As long as we return to G Dorian, the D7 serves its function. You can also use the tritone sub for D7. A tritone sub is when you take a dominant chord and you substitute a dominant chord, dominant 7 chord, a tritone away. So for D7, that would be A flat 7. It's a quick way to still sound harmonically adventurous, but still lead you straight back to home in G Dorian. Another extension of this concept of using functional harmony and dominant chords that are not naturally occurring in the diatonic sequence is to use secondary dominants. So let's say you're targeting a diatonic chord in G minor or G Dorian that's not G. Let's say we're targeting A minor or A minor 7 even. We're still in the key of G Dorian, but we're just targeting A minor. We can use the dominant chord from A minor to help our ear get to A minor. So the dominant chord for A minor is E7. D7 is introducing several notes outside of the G Dorian scale. We have a G sharp, a B natural, which will sound really tense against the G Dorian vamp, but if we resolve them into A minor, we're immediately brought back home. Like we did with the D7 going to G, we can also use the tritone substitution for E7 to go to A minor. So tritone substitution for E is B flat. So when we play a B flat 7, we have more notes that are within the G Dorian scale again. We have B flat, D, F, and then one note that's outside, that's G sharp or A flat. So if we create a line like that with the B flat 7 arpeggio going to A minor 7, we can create more harmonic movement that still works over a G Dorian sound. Another approach to outside playing is to use parallel shapes and gestures across the guitar neck. Let's take a major 7 arpeggio that's within the G Dorian scale, like a B flat. Now let's move that chromatically. Even though many of these notes are outside of the key, our ear is drawn to the major 7th shape, and it creates context that allows us to move it around freely. As long as we come back to G Dorian at some point, this is a great way of playing outside notes without thinking too much. Many of these ideas were inspired by Dave Liebman's book, A Chromatic Approach to Jazz Harmony and Melody. If you're really into this type of playing and want to dig deeper into outside and inside playing, I highly recommend this book. Try experimenting with these techniques on your own. You can use a looper pedal, a backing track, or find a friend to play a modal vamp for you. Let me know what you'd like to explore next. If you find this helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you next time.